Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
When it's cold outside, girl, who are you holding? I'm just messing around, y'all. What's good? It is your man here, the Todd voice, back with another YouTube video, and I'm glad you're here. Now, I'm a little bit hype off of Red Bull today, so please bear with me. You know what's interesting? Everywhere I look online nowadays, people are talking about the loneliness epidemic. And usually when you hear that phrase, you imagine a certain group of people. Maybe a young dude sitting alone in his room, maybe somebody scrolling social media all day, or maybe somebody who can't get a date. But the more I think about it, the more I realize there isn't just one type of loneliness epidemic. There's the young version of the loneliness epidemic, and there's the old version of the loneliness epidemic. But the funny thing is, we're both lonely for completely different reasons. Let's start with the young generation. Young men today are talking about being invisible. They're talking about being ignored. They're talking about dating apps, rejection, feeling like they can't compete. And some of them just stopped approaching women altogether, which is terrible. And that made them just check out of dating completely. And others have become so frustrated that they are surrounding themselves with other groups of people on the internet who feel the same way, like incels and communities built around isolation and resentment. But now, wait. Now, before anybody gets upset, I'm not saying all men think like this. I'm just saying that enough of them do to where it becomes a conversation. And I do somewhat understand their frustrations. Imagine growing up in a world where every rejection is amplified by social media. Imagine competing against thousands of people online. Imagine feeling like everybody's outside living their best life while you sit at home alone scrolling. I think that's a different type of loneliness. It's a loneliness of wanting connection but not being able to find it. And then we get the older people. And I think older loneliness looks different. Most aren't saying that they can't find somebody. They're just saying that they're tired of trying to find somebody. We're saying that we've been through enough. We've survived divorces, heartbreak, disappointments. Some of them spent decades trying to make relationships work. But somewhere along the way, many people started saying something that I've been hearing a whole lot lately. I just want peace. Not love, but peace. Not excitement, not passion, just peace. And I get it. At a certain age, peace becomes valuable. But sometimes I wonder if you protect your peace so long, does that sometime end up making you isolated? Young people are lonely because they tried and failed, and old people are lonely because they stopped trying altogether. One group saying, no, nobody wants me. And the other group is saying nobody is worth the trouble. So both groups just end up sitting alone. Now, this is the question that I'm wondering. Which one's worse? Being lonely because you can't find a connection, or being lonely because you've convinced yourself that you don't need one? I don't know. I really don't know. What I do know is that human beings were not meant to be alone complete. We need friendships. We need family. We need companionship. We need people. Somewhere between the young frustration and the older generation search for peace, I think we have lost something very important: the willingness to be uncomfortable. Because connection is uncomfortable. It can be. Friendships require effort. Relationships require compromise. And love requires risk. Community requires participation, and none of that is easy. And maybe that's why so many people are opting out. The younger generation is looking at the dating market and saying, why bother? And the older generation is looking at the dating market saying there's nothing out there. Been there, done that, which is completely different reasons, but it ends up in the same results: loneliness. I think that a lot of people are just pretending they're happy alone when they're really just trying to protect themselves from hurt and disappointment. And that could be true whether you're 25 or 65. Maybe this loneliness epidemic isn't really loneliness at all. Maybe it's just fear. Fear of rejection, fear of heartbreak, fear of failure, fear of disappointment. And maybe the only way out is to risk those things. So what do you think? Who has it worse? We're gonna look at some videos and see about this loneliness epidemic.
So the other night I went to a function and I realized a lot of what we see in male behavior when they're out in public and at parties is just an adage of the male loneliness epidemic many of them are struggling through.
This false narrative that there's a male loneliness epidemic is crazy work. All I see on TikTok every single day is a bunch of women whining and crying about being lonely. But you're gonna sit right here and try to project this onto men? You are full of. We see through you. We know who y'all are. And I guess it's true what they say. When the hate don't work, they start telling lies.
I want to speak to something that's been heavy on my heart, and it's the fact that we are currently living in a loneliness epidemic. It's something that's just not talked about enough, and I feel like it needs to be addressed. Mainly because we have so many people walking around feeling unseen, unsupported, disconnected from reality, people trying to show up as someone that they just aren't, seeking acceptance, and that makes loneliness not a personal issue. Loneliness then becomes a societal issue because then we're all affected by this weird awkwardness that's just weighing on the world. And if you don't feel it, like, I don't even know how to describe that. Like, how do you not see it? How do you not feel it? We have to do better as a society as far as showing up for the people that we love and care about, and even being respectful to strangers. But still, knowing all this, it's still people who show up and want to play games. And I got cut off, but I just want to say, knowing all this, it's still people who show up and try to play games, like want to play games. Why?
We are super duper lonely and only getting lonelier as a society. Sure, COVID interrupted all of our lives, both physically, socially, but there's actually something.
COVID destroyed a lot. Every day that I live, I'm realizing more and more that COVID took away from us, besides lovely people that we lost. That was terrible, but just society-wise, it's way different than it was.
Bigger at play here. We've been trending more towards solitary lifestyles for like a while. And that's not just bad for our mental health, it takes a toll on our physical health too. So
Male loneliness epidemic, it's just women refusing to be manipulated anymore. We're educated and we're independent. Like maybe, just maybe, we're the prize.
Oh, sweetie, the male loneliness epidemic doesn't even exist, so your entire video and premise is nothing but pure fantasy. I mean, I know you desperately need to believe it does because the wall has already come and you're facing your own personal loneliness epidemic. But just because you think it exists doesn't mean it actually does.
This is going to get me in trouble, but nobody wants to talk about the female loneliness epidemic. They only want to talk about the male loneliness epidemic. If we were to actually unpack female loneliness, we would have to also look at the behaviors that contribute to it. It only takes one excruciating friendship or friend group experience for a woman to kind of want to wall herself off from friendship with other women. Women are often socialized and taught that relational harmony is a primary goal. So when there's any disagreement, it tends not to happen through direct conflict. It's more of like subtle shifting social dynamics. And yeah, sometimes the conflict is an inherent jealousy. Sometimes the conflict is a growing apart or a changing of opinions or beliefs. And even if it isn't intended to be malicious, the indirect nature of it can cause a lot of women to act like some shady ass. And all it takes is one bad experience with somebody acting like a shady ass for you to think isolation is better.
And men, do y'all still hit on women like in person? I was listening to this podcast and this very pretty, accomplished lady, great personality, good head on her shoulders, good background, was saying how men never hit on her. It just doesn't happen. And it got me thinking to myself, I'm like, dang, she kind of right. I can't remember the last time a quality dude actually came up to me in person on some real stuff and hit on me. My thing is, if a woman hits on a man first, she's considered thirsty, like by societal dating standards, even though I know in real life that's not true. That is what she's considered. Some men will be turned off by that, and there's no friend in my friend group who is a woman who will encourage me to hit on a man first, right? But if the men aren't doing it and the women aren't doing it, then everybody loses. So nobody gets a date and everybody's alone. Like, help me.
If you've been on the internet for more than 2 seconds, you've heard of the male loneliness epidemic. It's basically where a bunch of incels talk about why it's women's fault that men are alone. Or at least a lot of them. All of the women that talk on TikTok that I follow, you could go check my following, who talk about things like this have talked about it a million different ways, a million different times. But what they don't talk about is how females are just as lonely.
In the United States particularly, it's a pandemic of sorts. The whole issue of loneliness, which is a pandemic condition. And it used to be that loneliness were people like me, 87 years old. They were stored away in storage in these nursing homes, or else they were living in the houses where they had their children, and they either living alone or even living accompanied by an elderly wife or husband, but the loneliness is huge, 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 and it kills you.
You older people out here trying to convince all the people that is younger than you that being single and alone is okay and it's cool, and it's just something that you can deal with, and you just living this happy-go-free life, and that is a complete lie. That is a lie. You know, don't let these older people sit up here and tell you that, you know, I'm 60 and I've been alone by myself for 30 years. That's a lie. And also, that is not the order of God. And I know a lot of you don't believe in God. Leave me alone. You do you and I do me. Okay, that is not the order, because humans automatically have a natural affection for another human. Humans are made to love on each other. Okay, that's what they're made for. Everybody needs somebody at some point in their life. No matter how great you are, how smart you are, how intelligent you are, everybody needs somebody at some point. And a lot of these older people, they sit back and they act like that it is okay to be alone, and it's okay to be by yourself. And they try to make you feel like that you should do the same thing that they are doing. Just go ahead and get you an apartment, get your cat, and you'll be okay. And just go to the store once a day and come back in the house, and you go check the mail, go back in the house, and that's it. And that's how you live your life every single day. And on Sundays, you go to church and you get up and you cook something to eat just for you, and then you go and get your cat some food, and then you just live your life just like that. That is a very miserable, unstable life, antisocial life, and that is not how it goes. If you end up trying to find yourself that you think that you have a purpose of actually being alone, and it is a cool thing, that is a mental illness. It's something that's wrong with that, and it should not be so. Okay, everybody have to have somebody at some point in their life. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you have a high sex drive. I don't care if you just need, you know, that touch. I don't care if you just need, you know, some sort of attention from somebody at some point. Because what these older people are doing, they want some attention, but what they try to do is get it the wrong way. That's why they go to these places and they talk loud, they act crazy, and they say stuff to people that they don't care what they say, and they just try to get all that attention, and they want some amens and claps on the back end of what they're doing, because at home they're actually miserable. They don't know what to do with themselves. I don't care what nobody say. Don't put yourself in a position where being old and alone is cool. It's not cool. Everybody want to die with somebody around. Everybody want to be sick and somebody check on them. Everybody want a phone call every now and then. Somebody going to want a text message. You're going to want something from somebody every now and then. Some of these older people that ran off their kids, they done ran off everybody. They done ran off the family members. They just don't want to be bothered. I stay right next door to one. Well, older lady, she don't want nobody around her, nobody in her house. She doesn't want to be bothered with nobody, okay? And at the end of the day, I catch her sitting outside drinking coffee early in the morning around by 7 a.m. and she look like she's miserable and she alone and she don't know what to do with herself. She out there counting the beads. Don't let these people convince you that you need to be alone. You are designed and you are made to have human affection. That is a natural order. If you don't desire no human affection, is something wrong with you, and it has to be fixed.
Most single women over 50 won't admit this, but here's the real truth. Yeah, we can go out, we have fun, we travel, we go out with the girls, we go to yoga, some of you are playing pickleball, tennis, we have great lives, we pay our own bills, we afford our own homes. But at the end of the day, when you come home late at night to an empty house, or maybe even your dog, it's fucking lonely.